Hey y'all, Mo here. I just wanted to make this quick video, hopefully one of the last ones before Bullshit No Yusha is ready to go. I'm sorry I'm late on that, by the way. I'm really trying. But I just needed to record and edit this video about Yasuke in particular, because it's got me pressed in a way that I've not been pressed in a long time. So a couple nights ago on our Discord server, which you should join if you want to talk to me and stuff, we binged Yasuke, the new Netflix anime by LaShawn Thomas and Mappa. And I was chiefly interested in it because the protagonist is black, not just a black dude, but Yasuke, right? One of Japan's few foreign samurai. Yasuke's presence in Japan in the 16th century is actually one of the more significant proofs of a much larger concept, that black people and civilizations were an active part of history. They were not passive agents to be discovered and tamed by Europeans. So while my initial interest was to see one of the few anime with a black protagonist, I came away from the viewing rather pleased. The first 3 episodes slapped. The last 3, maybe less so. There were definitely some weird off-model things and animation issues towards the end that suggested production was rushed as they got closer to the deadline. It had its historical inaccuracies for sure, and the giant fights between huge robots and astral projection warriors felt a bit much for a historical drama at times. It's also a very politically liberal show, interested more in minorities rising up to higher stations within society than an overthrow of hierarchy itself. But it worked in a lot of neat moments where it used real history to make the case that not only can you find black people in history in places you don't expect, but women and gay people and all sorts of other people some pretend didn't exist until 1960. So Yasuke isn't perfect, but it's a fun time. After having seen it, I wanted to know how bad the mal reviews are. You know, because I hate myself. So the way mal reviews work, for those that don't know, is that in practice, a 7 out of 10 is usually the dividing line between an anime being more good or more bad. You usually don't break 8 out of 10 unless you're really popular or really good. And only a handful of anime ever break a 9 out of 10. A 6 point something usually means it's not really worth watching, and a 5 point something or below usually means something actively and uniquely terrible took place. You got your conceptions, you got your things that are just like not well animated or drawn by amateurs and things like that. I'm checking Mal, and I'm thinking, if Yasuke was about like a light-skinned Japanese dude or a Dutch sailor turned samurai, this would probably gain like a clean 7.4, 7.5 out of 10. It's got its character moments and cool fights, but people who are expecting a grounded historical drama will probably be disappointed. Then we gotta factor in the anti-blackness inherent to anime fandom. SSSS Dyna Zenon is another show this season that's really good.
もう行くね。ほら珍しい。予定あるの？あ、待って。ん
Ragva wants you to know that Dyna Zenon is excellent, and they've watched like every episode like 5 times. It's not heavy on dark-skinned characters or anything, but it's got like a 6.92 on Mal anyway for not really being animated as much as you expect from a Trigger show, not being its predecessor SSSS.Gridman, and just not being your typical action romp. So I'm thinking, you just knock that 7.4 out of 10 down to like a 6.9 to like a 7.1, just to counter all the people going blah blah SJW Netflix agenda. Okay, so ready for the actual score? Drum roll, please. A 6.30 out of 10. A 6.3. Let me contextualize just how low that is, okay? Sword Art Online, the anime that spent the better part of the last decade maligned as the worst anime ever made and the reason isekai is so terrible, is currently sitting at a cool 7.23 out of 10. The Misfit at Demon King Academy is a show I talked about at the beginning of this year. It's got an over-centralizing male lead, nothing female characters, and a really sloppy race allegory that presents all characters that are supposed to represent Japan's mixed race population as passive elements to the majority. There's a scene in it where the protagonist picks up a building and spins it on his finger. Anyway, that's got a nice 7.33 out of 10 on Mal. Okay, here's where it gets irritating. Redo of Healer, the controversial anime from last season, in which the protagonist has magic healing cum. That's not an exaggeration. He has magic fucking cum that he uses to rape women into being his slaves. That's got a 6.31. a 6.31 out of 10 on Mal. Terraform Mars, the anime in which black people are compared to bloodthirsty, ultraviolent, primitive cockroaches who infest the planet and need to be exterminated through genocide by our heroes. An anime which presents the pinnacle of human evolution created in God's image through selective breeding to be a blonde Aryan man. An anime which revels in the pure satisfaction of dismembering black bodies on screen for shits and giggles. Easy 7.03 out of 10. And of course, my favorite anime, The Rising of the Shield Hero, the show that started it all for me, the anime that justifies the actual institution of slavery, even using arguments that were popular in the American South before the Civil War. Not even for political reasons, you see, but to sell you a stupid raccoon child slave waifu anime figurine. It's an 8 out of 10. So when I wrote this, Yasuke had a 6.30 on Mal. It currently has a 6.09. So everything I said is true. It's just way worse than I thought, which was already worse than I thought the first time. I'm very upset. So, to a good section of the average anime fan, comparing black people to cockroaches and announcing your desire to purge them from this world as Terraform Mars does, defending the actual institution of slavery, as Redo of Healer and Shield Hero do, none of these things are as offensive as, like, having a black protagonist in your anime and being proud of it. Art made by black people, in part for black people, about how being black is pretty cool actually, is apparently the most offensive thing to weebs. Just period. You could do a rape, a genocide, a sexism, a misgendering, but like, put a black person in front of my face? That's disgusting. And at this point, you realize that some people legitimately would rather not have black people exist. And some of those people use anime as a fantasy world to escape to where they can pretend black people do not exist. The idea that some people don't want me to exist it's not new to me. My parents had multiple escalating talks with me about when I was a kid, about how some of my peers would never see me as good as them. I've experienced racism personally, you get over it. And it's probably not new to a lot of people in my audience, especially if you're like gay or trans or like a different person of color. But every once in a while, you're reminded of it in a way that reignites like a childlike confusion and anger in a what the fuck did I ever do to you sort of way. There are going to be people who take this essay and go, "Oh Mo, aren't you taking this too far? People just didn't like it because it wasn't well written." Okay, but like, written worse than the Misfit of Demon King Academy? Written worse than Sword Art Online? Worse than Shield Hero? These were not exactly the pinnacle of writing prowess, you know. But Mo, it's bad because it's not historically accurate. Oh, so like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, 8.01 out of 10 on Mal, or Gintama, 8.96 out of 10 on Mal, like Bakano, 8.41 out of 10 on Mal, or like Moriarty the Patriot, 8.04 out of 10 on Mal. Like none of those shows are historically accurate, and they do fine. Oh, but they don't like how it devolved into big fantasy fights at the end. Oh, so like Darling in the Franxx, 7.31 out of 10 on Mal, and how that show devolves into a giant robot versus alien fight at the end, before all the girls get pregnant with like 10 babies? You mean how even though the ending goes off the wall, it's still one of the most popular anime in the fandom? Oh, but Mom, we just don't want Netflix forcing their agenda into anime. What agenda? What fucking agenda? Specify it.
You have African American rappers saying N-word this and N-word that, but a Caucasian can't.
So say it.
Say what?
Say the word you want to say.
What agenda is an anime promoting by just having a black protagonist and making a story about him and his blackness, treating him in the same way that light-skinned anime characters have been treated for years? What agenda are we promoting just by letting black people exist? If you're against this agenda, you just don't want black people to exist, which brings me back to my point. And just last thing, you know, cherry on top of all the things that bother me. I hate it when people act like black people interacting with and making anime and anime adjacent content for ourselves is some sort of outside introduction to the fan. Black anime fans have basically been a thing since anime has been available to consume outside of Japan. There's an entire generation of black anime fans who grew up on Sailor Moon, on Dragon Ball, on Naruto, and who are now old enough to start making their own things. It's not pandering to leftist identity politics when people who have always been around make things. That's just you being a weird little fail-son creep with a blind spot. Anyway, watch Yasuke, it's good. It's not good because Yasuke is black, rather, the anime wants to tell a story about a different kind of person and makes an earnest attempt to do so. And because of that, you get little subtle moments that stand out above every other seasonal. Seriously, stop watching Nagatoro or whatever. Do yourself a solid. Jesus Christ. And yeah, I promise, very, very soon we'll be back to having actual essays and not just ones like this in podcasts. Alright, take care.